Hi, this is Vanessa Zamora. I'm here with Matt Cutt, who many of you know from Google. He's a great software engineer over there. So
Thank
very
you.
excited to finally be sitting down with you.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, everybody like bombards you after, and I'm like, oh, forget it. I'm never going to have a chance. But now this is really cool.
It's fun, though.
We were just talking about the Google Connect API, which was introduced this morning in his keynote session.
Yeah.
And very excited about that.
Yeah.
And how, my question was, I'm thinking about you guys sitting around. We were talking about how that decreases spam and how it improves quality on the web. So
Yeah.
you were going to say something about that.
Absolutely. So the Google Friend Connect API, Google Friend Connect is really interesting. It lets you essentially awaken the social part of your site. And so all these people who are coming and just reading your content, a lot of the times they just leave. So Google Friend Connect is fantastic because with a little bit of JavaScript, you can add social stuff. People can leave comments, they can share things. But until now, until today, it's still been just a little bit of, say, JavaScript or a little bit of widget on one part of the site. But the nice thing is, now with the Google Friend Connect API, you can integrate that identity into your site directly. So a good example, suppose you've got a WordPress blog. If you want to, you can now install a plugin and you can let anybody comment on your WordPress blog by using a Google account, a Yahoo account, an AOL Instant Messenger account, or even any OpenID account. So it's open to all sorts of systems. It's not just a Google sort of thing. But it's also not just WordPress. We've got a plugin for Drupal. We've got a plugin for PHPBB. These are open source. They're completely free. They're proof of concept. So if you're an open source or other developer and you can make a better plugin for vBulletin or Joomla or whatever, this is great. Go right ahead.
Awesome opportunity.
Yeah, you could get tons of links, you could get well known, and it's really fantastic because it's so much easier to leave a comment on a site if all you have to do is click one button to join.
It is, yeah. So it should increase conversation as
A
well.
lot more conversation and hopefully higher quality conversation. We were just talking about how if you're anonymous, you're a little more likely to be a jerk on the internet.
Yeah.
But if your name or your picture is beside your comment, you'll probably be a little more careful.
Sort of like when you're in your car versus like on the sidewalk.
Exactly. You're not going to insult somebody right to their face, but if you do it over the internet, people will do that.
Sure, yeah, it's easier. And also you mentioned that usually you don't like to mention these sort of things at conferences. I'm curious why you chose to make this announcement.
Yeah, it's really funny because, well, I love PubCon. It's always great to visit PubCon. There's a lot of good stuff that happens here. Normally, launching something on a specific time is really challenging because what if a check-in doesn't go well or we don't hear back on some documentation? It can take a long time, and its coordinating can be really tricky. So what we like to do is we never talk about future plans, and then whenever it's done, boom, you just announce it. So whenever you're trying to coordinate with a specific conference like PubCon, it's a lot more tricky. And I really have to send a shout out to the entire Friend Connect team, the PR folks, the Google Code team, the Open Social team. They all really pulled a lot of heavy lifting to get it ready so that we could talk about it at the conference. And so it's live now. Later today, you'll be able to download the code. You can already read blog posts about it, and so people can just jump right in. It was. I said, hey, if you guys can manage to get it done and crank and crunch to finish this in time for PubCon, I would love to tell a few hundred really interested webmasters about it.
Sure, absolutely. So I had a couple questions too. A couple people knew I was going to interview and were like jabbing at me. I have a friend who was like, "You're interviewing Matt Cutt," and I said, "Okay, what do you want me to ask him?" So he said, "What do you foresee in the future? You probably see the most of anyone. Do you foresee as the next in spam?"
There's definitely going to be a lot more hacking. What's really kind of scary is how much the SEOs used to be separate from the hackers, and by hackers I mean the bad guys, the crackers, for lack of a better word. And now you see those two sort of getting together. And that's going to keep going on. So you'll see people who are spamming terms, and they'll install malware on your machine.
Oh dear.
Which is really, that's about the worst thing that you can do.
It's really evil.
Yeah, and people hacking sites. And so it used to be just like, oh, I'll spam some blogs or I'll scrape some content. And now it's much more like, if you're not careful, this stuff will take over your machine and sniff on your credit card numbers. So it's going to get more malicious. Unfortunately, that's going to happen until we have better security in place everywhere around the web.
Absolutely. And so what measures are you taking to protect?
Yeah, certainly one thing you can do is try to make sure that your servers are patched. So for example, if you've got WordPress, you can now pretty much automatically upload updates. If you have any server on your software that you don't patch, it will probably get attacked. So you need to make sure that you tackle that. Google is trying to help in a few ways. If we see that you've been hacked, or if we see things like malware, we try to warn you about that. So we'll say, this site may harm your computer, and then you can click and get more info. Or we'll send you a message in our message center that says, hey, we saw some hidden text, you might be installing some malware. We don't promise that we'll do that because a lot of sites do get hacked and get malware, but we try to warn a lot of them.
Awesome. Now, I know this has been a problem too in the past, is indexing Flash sites. So what advancements are you making towards that?
Yeah, great question. So just a few months ago, we released a new, well, Adobe did the API, but essentially, and I'm not the Flash expert, but essentially what it lets you do is take a Flash state and march through it and sort of almost pretend to be a user clicking. And at any stage in there, you can sort of say, okay, what is the text in that Flash? What are the links in that Flash? So much more so than even a few months ago, we're able to crawl the content of Flash. We're able to find the text of Flash. Now, it's not a perfect solution. So for example, if you have an iPhone, iPhones don't support Flash. So you have to think about, you know, what happens if someone doesn't have Flash. And unfortunately, that'll always be the case. There will always be old browsers that are TVs, you know, iPhones. So you need to think about what happens when a user doesn't have Flash. But search engines are definitely getting better at it.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely.
And it was great to finally sit down with you,
Totally.
Matt. Okay.
Absolutely
great.
a pleasure.
Thank you.